no worries. No worries at all.
So, what I wanted to double check is how the stuck loop is going.
Mm-hmm.
So, that actually doesn't help at all. Oh dear. Who came to the meeting unprepared?
Oh, by the way, that paper I sent you, there's no need to read it. It was just interesting that, once again, someone else has spent a few years of their life thinking along the same lines as us.
There's a lot of that going around. Okay, so the way I'm seeing it is that the chat stream or the prompts that come in from the user are the same as like the teletype terminal in Linux. So when you have your shell, you've got like a character terminal. You can have multiple ones depending on what your keyboard is hooked up to. That output gets redirected to I can't remember what it is. It's like a socket or something internally, and it gets routed around like that. So how I'm thinking it goes is there's the input from the user is always coming in via a pretty standard stream. You can have many streams because you can have many sessions. Like you can have another tab open on your browser or whatever, right? Then that's going to go to the something that acts like a goalie. You can reprogram and rewire where that input goes, so you can always sort of redirect it if you want to make your own little bot and just have the user go in there. But this goalie then makes a call using the stuck finder function, where it's like it's basically that's the retrieval step. So it does a rag on that, whatever the prompt was. It may have had to ask some clarifying questions before you got a good hit. Then this is we can black box that up. It doesn't actually matter how it does its job, but that basically comes back with this comes back with a single help, which is the one that you're either going to come back with you need to tell me more, or you've got a help and you're ready to execute it.
Or it's good enough. You've reached a trigger level.
Yeah. Okay. This then begins its execution. If it has issues or needs more input, it will do a I'm sorry, I really screwed that up. My diagrams are temporal as opposed to yeah. So this could be like there's nothing good, or it could be like here's an actual help. Then once we've got one that we're confident in, we then make a step to call the runner of that help. Again, you can wire that up to be anything you like. I think it's general enough that you can wire that up to be different things. But this is how the initial implementation is going to go. That will hit the runner of the help. If the runner has questions, like it needs more information once it gets to a certain step, it's going to go back to the goalie / whatever you want to call it, and then that entity is going to ask the questions of the user. Right? And then once it's done, it's going to make another call with the extra information back, and then this thing's going to keep on going. Ultimately, there'll be some file system changes, some API calls, whatever, and then finally it's like I am done. Bang, next problem.
Makes sense to me.
Right? Okay, and then when
Um,
you wanna, so this thing here, you might laugh at this implementation, but I don't care what it costs. I'm just gonna dump all the help files into one single fat context window. It's probably gonna cost like $1 or something. I don't even care. But
it's,
um,
it's mucky. Yeah, but okay,
and
fair enough. Yeah,
but this is the just, and I'm basically gonna say here's all the helps that we have because there's like only 10 of them at the moment, and
yeah,
then it'll just tell me what the best one is, and then we can sort of develop out this mechanism with trial and error and whatever. But this is just to get up and going.
yeah. I agree. Up and
Right.
going, that's perfectly reasonable.
Okay. And so when you want to add new capabilities to the system, you're going to need to go in there and create some helps that give it these extra capabilities.
Yeah,
Yeah?
ultimately, I've got. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
Ultimately, I suspect that we're going to. I don't know where is. I suspect it's in the runner, but we're going to need nesting. Um, and by that, you see the green. The red arrow is backwards and forwards where David's being asked for
That,
new information. I
yeah.
think we should be able to ask other bots for new information.
Absolutely. I think that's a function call of arbitrary complexity
Right. Yeah, yeah.
and
And
time as
bots
well.
all the way down. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah. But we
then
don't need to do that for day one.
that's right. And so I think that helps seem separate to no, sorry, start again. Helps seem like they are a bit of a bundle. So if you have a help, it's going to be comprised of it's got this goal part
Yep.
to it.
Yep.
Then it's got some plain text instructions,
Yep.
and then it's got it might have some code modules that it refers to,
Mm-hmm.
or some natural
Some.
language modules
Yeah.
that it's
Or
like here's some
right.
functions of varying descriptions. Some can be computer code, some can be natural language code,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah. Yeah.
basically
Yeah.
here's the tool set that you need.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm thinking the same thing. And
Same thing. Okay,
yeah.
these
Sorry.
don't
Go.
have
Go.
to be like this package, the goal, the the help package. You can use, this one can be used somewhere else as well. So these are like components. These are like
So it just addresses. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they're just
Yeah. Yeah.
addresses, and you can, which
Yeah.
means that the tooling is a little bit separate from the instructions on how to use the tooling.
So there's an engine somewhere that
Uh,
constructs a goal. Or no, no.
I'm trying to merge them all together so that that is really just really considered another type of help,
Yeah.
where it's just a pure function call, whereas this might be a composition of many different tools that sort of lists out an arbitrarily long process, whereas this might be just a very simple instruction that doesn't even it's just a straight up call, like a bot
That's
call.
it's interesting. We're converging here quite nicely. So when I was doing that database simulator thing, I based it on I was on my whiteboard here. I was calling it a toolbox,
Right,
and toolbox involved four tools. CRUD. Then I gave
right,
an example of how to use the tools. You don't have to use every tool every time,
right,
but those are the ones that are available to you.
right. Okay, and then I guess the anatomic tool is one that only does one thing,
Right.
whereas a compound tool would have these atomic tools within it,
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then the
But
instructions would be
the
the
atomic
natural
tools,
language
right?
composition.
Yeah, exactly. The atomic tools nested all the way down effectively are a jitter. It's
Right,
like you've got these things that we know work. We've told you how it works, and the NL.
Well,
is
the
there
jitter's the
to translate
result,
all the way
but
down.
the atomics are what's used to produce the jitter assembled.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah. We're
Okay.
converging. We're converging quite nicely, actually.
Okay. Um. Yeah, that's close enough then. Um. All right. Well, I think we finally got a generalized um what's the word for it? Execution process where you can actually rewrite these bits if you want to tamper with the core, or, and you can also add in different goals and different
Yeah.
instructions.
Yeah. So
Whereas,
there's
yeah, I
from
think you. Sorry,
go on, sorry,
you
man.
go. You go.
From my point of view, there's a couple of major ones. The HAL, which will be very short on prompts and very
It needs
general.
to be massively deprompted, eh? Like
Yeah,
massively deprompted. Like
because
that is where you're trying to actually capture the heart of
we've no
OpenAI.
idea what Dave's up to. It's like, hey
Nah,
Dave, you
and
can do
figuring that
anything.
out is actually that's OpenAI's problem, and we should
Yeah,
let them solve it as open-endedly as possible.
yeah. The runner's a bit more constrained, but these I don't know, effectively it's a packet, right, of different things, and then you've got
A help
the
package.
yeah, then you've got the tools. The
Yeah,
so what I'd see if we're on the same page here. So the goal, I'd write something like for a CRUD database, create in order to create, do this, do not do that,
yeah,
never do this,
yeah,
always do that. Here's your
yeah,
set of tools that you
yeah,
can use, and those
yeah,
refer to separate objects.
yeah. And so we'll, I think under this architecture, I can also set up a test runner suite
Mm-hmm.
where you can actually use that to craft or work on these help packages where you're able to, tweak them and alter them,
Right,
and
right,
you'll
exactly.
you'll
And
also be able to pull in the executions that were used at the hand of Dave, so you can actually see the instances where it was called.
yep, 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 and the path all the way down, and this is effectively another help, right? So you're talking
Yeah,
about so it helps all the way down,
that's right. Yeah,
uh, good stuff, and then at some point you reach bedrock and it's like execute,
yeah,
and you can choose this overall help can choose anything from its toolbox,
yep,
put together whatever it needs in the right way in order to respond back up.
yep,
And it can also handle under the goal queries, and it can handle queries from backwards and forwards with Hal and Dave, or it can
yep,
handle queries from other goals.
yep. And it can handle like part of what it can do can be progress updates. So, for
Yeah,
example, in some scenarios, we'd want to hide all the activity of the runner, but if it takes a long time, we may trigger a progress update back to Hal, and then Hal will emblazon that with relevant information for the user,
oh,
like,
that's the
"Hey,
interesting thing.
I'm just thinking a bit."
Oh, how did how do we do that? That's interesting
That's pretty easy
because
because
these
you
are
just you call it,
unitary. Yeah.
you call it, and then you give back a function that says in progress and some
Oh, so
meaningful status.
you pull it occasionally, saying, "Are you done yet?" No, you're not done
Well,
yet.
it's
It's like,
not really polling; it's re-executing. So it's like you
uh,
execute it, and the response was, "I'm halfway there," and then all Hal has to know is that when you get a response that says you're unfinished, if you want to keep going, you need to call carry on.
yeah, cool.
But when you get the status back, that can have some information that Hal can use to give a sort of a helpful little friendly update to the user to be like, it's all
To
good.
to
And
to keep Dave calm. Yeah,
right, yeah,
yeah.
like I'm at step number 9 of 10, and last time I ran this, it took about 5 minutes, so I think you've got about 2 minutes left,
Yeah.
something like that.
So I've got a couple of questions. I'm not entirely clear yet about how to write the runner using NL. Is that going to be a code thing or is it going to be an NL thing?
No, that's going to be an NL thing, and my job is going to be to provide you code pieces that turn out you can't do with NL.
Right.
And so,
Right.
but what I expect those things would be is like API calls, and hopefully they aren't just I have to make a piece of code for every API you want to call. They should start to become very much more generic. It's like this system uses OAuth 2 and it's making this call out with these
Well,
parameters.
that's the help loop
Yeah, yeah.
helps,
It'll
right?
get better and better
Like,
and better, and then
yeah,
I'll have to
start.
write less code, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. There's only so many
those
things you can do.
those little runner things. I mean, given what you just showed me with the in mind database thing, it doesn't like you. There's very little I think you are gonna need really that isn't natural language because this is where
Mhm.
you'd be able to set the business rules. There's a couple of fundamental features that I have to add into the file system, such as triggers. So I
Mhm.
can be like, well, if the customer record updates, you need to trigger a check that makes sure that the format was correct, blah, blah, blah. So there's sort of consistency guarantees that have to be inserted in the system.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but
Although
again,
you can do that in NL as well.
but those are NL. So the only
Yeah.
the only
Okay.
sort of machinery parts is the trigger, like the hey something happened, call this,
Yeah.
uh, make this NL call.
That's good. That's good.
So
Um,
yeah,
it's
I think it's doable. What would
I think it normally is doable is once we've done it, we've got a universal data engine.
something like
Um,
that?
this which is a fairly bold step.
Hmm.
Uh, this black box, of course, expands, but
Yeah,
all the
yeah, 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 and it
it,
can be refined, and there'll be
yeah,
competition to see who can do the best rag and all that.
right, right, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's sort of the more I think we've got now in code a general framework that you can use the NL tools to reprogram and reposition and test, and then at that point you're now editing. You no longer need like the playground or external tools or coding skills because you can now start using this very system, and
yeah,
then all I'll do is each time you change something, I'll just commit it into GitHub, and now all the users get it,
yeah.
and they just pull down the latest version from GitHub each time.
And also these atomic goals, or helps rather, form an index of a kind of universal toolbox,
Yeah.
of which and each one we say these are the tools that you should need. If
Mm.
you need another one, then that's a stuck.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. And
Yeah.
so like putting constraints on this box
Mm-hmm.
and the initial prompt is how you'd lock a system down to be in kiosk mode or some
Yeah.
other type of restricted narrow field.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, well this is
Um,
all finally starting to look clear.
it's I'm really quite content, bizarrely, for fucking Scotchman. Um, the paper I sent over effectively. I was looking for any kind of evidence that we're not fucking going off on this
Yeah.
one, but the compilation of tasks, as they call it,
Mm-hmm.
and the fragmentation of tasks and parallelization of tasks.
Mm-hmm.
They ran their metrics on it and increased the speed of computation considerably,
Mm.
because effectively what you're saying is let's spend a little bit of overhead figuring out what the pipe work
Yeah,
should be doing,
yeah, that's
um,
right.
and then we go down to something that we know is good, so you get a
Yeah,
better result with fewer GPU
yeah,
calls instead of dumping it
yeah.
all in.
Additionally, these goals, I
Mm,
realized when you were showing me how you'd prompted the in-mind database that the goals and the examples are the same, and so by giving examples, you're of what a bunch of possibilities could be, you would allow the rag function a better chance of always hitting the same package.
right. Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah,
time, even though the goal might have been a bit fuzzy here and there. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, and I quite like this. I think it's nice and simple, and it's very generic. Plus, you can edit it yourself
Yeah,
and play
yeah,
with different versions of it.
yeah, and depending on what the back end Git store is, well, the back end Git store is going to be largely natural language, so you can go and fuck around with it if you've got
Mm.
permissions.
Yeah, well, you should be able to take your repo and my repo and present them as one repo so that you could browse my sessions, you could jump into my sessions, I could do the same for you. It doesn't really matter whose it is.
Yeah,
It just matters that it follows the structure that we need to run this system.
yeah,
So you can kind of rewire anything to anything in this system. I think the job for us to do is to wire it up in ways that stop that in areas that matter, like
right.
so that
Yeah.
everyday people can't chat their way to basically shutting down the whole system because they were
I've
like,
been well. The way I've been thinking about it is actually the whole prompt engineering thing really comes down to two things. It's like training a dog. You punish it when it's bad, as in you tell it you will not do this,
mm,
and you do go all capital
snarly.
letters on it, and then you say you will do that. And if you do
Yeah,
those two things, which is effectively in the goal and instructions, you can only there's going to be some universal things around the goal. You can only use the tools that we've told you about and so on. And the instructions are going to be the intent of
yeah. There's a relationship between the runner and the goal itself. Like you can't just chuck these in any format. They need to have some relationship with how they got executed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It needs to be coherent.
Yeah,
Um, I think that'd be fine. We can allow the AI, so long as we're coherent in the structure.
yeah.
I think the AI will produce similar results.
Mm, mm.
And so when this returns, then it's going to give something that can be relied upon. I don't think we need a separate AI looking at executing these things. I think these are self-executable.
No, they might, because you would only be able to test it on a particular engine.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd like,
Yeah, that's true.
like,
That's true. Yeah,
so
okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
they do have a relationship to this thing. That
Yeah,
that can all be tested like a continuous integration pipeline. If we want to try new models, we can then r- run through the evaluations on each one and see if they score well enough.
yeah.
So it's not
Compare
like
them.
you're stuck.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just frozen in
Okay.
time. You can, because it's natural language, you can upgrade it over time.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
That's.
it'll
I
never.
wasn't thinking about multiple models. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
quite right. You're quite right. Yeah.
the models are never going to get to the point where we can't understand them. Like the instructions are always going to be human readable.
Yeah.
There's sort of no point making instructions that only a machine can understand. That's sort of not the purpose of our platform anyway.
Yeah.
Someone else can deal with that problem.
Well, we're never going to go back there. Yeah. Cool.
All right,
Okay.
cool. Well,
Yeah.
I'll
Nice.
carry on then. That was good.
All right. Nice one.
Thank you.
Right. What is it? It's 2:20 a.m. here. Yeah. I'm probably going to clock off about 3,
Okay, sweet.
something like that. So I'm here if you need anything. But I'm doing a bit of a deep dive.
All right.
But yeah. Nice one.
Okay. I'll,
Seems absurdly simple, doesn't it?
yeah, you should see what it looks like under the hood. It's absurdly simple there too.
It's disturbing. All right, man.
Nice.
Next session, if we don't talk before, is going to be similar kind of time slot. Tomorrow.
How long is that from now?
Uh, uh, the start time or the end time is roughly 24 hours from now, and dial that back by about 8 hours. So
16 from now. Okay. All
yeah,
right.
roughly.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah. Right, go on.
Okay, I'll see you later.
See you, man.